Okay, hell yeah. Everything is rolling, and we are good to go when you're ready, brother.
All right. Hey, Pat.
Hey.
Hey, welcome everybody to the latest episode of the SixAM podcast. This is episode 4, and I'm coming to you live from Florida. I'm in
Woo.
Florida, Pat.
Yeah. How is it there?
I'm on vacation, and I'm still recording for you knuckleheads at home right now
Yeah, because
because we
we don't know how to
we're pretty
take time
disciplined.
off. That's what it is.
Yeah,
We
we don't know how to quit.
we
We
don't know
can't
how to
quit.
quit each other.
It's actually really cool, man. I had a lot of anxiety with traveling. We have not done any sincere or serious travel since before the pandemic. In fact, our last vacation took place like right as the pandemic. We didn't know that it was kicking off. Like we had no idea, but we were in Wyoming. We were in Jackson Hole, snowboarding, and that was that was in February, the beginning of February, 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And when we got home, the pandemic was just starting to rage, at least publicly. And so we have not been on vacation since. I've been really apprehensive about travel and so forth, even though the majority of my family is vaccinated. My littlest one is not, because it's not available to her. But honestly, dude, I got to be honest, man, like everything was smooth like butter, man. It was not really an issue. You have to wear masks on the airplane and the airport and so forth. But really, it was a pretty easy day, and we are in Cocoa Beach, Florida, right now. And by the time people are listening to this, we'll be on our way home. But this is great out here. I went surfing for the first time with my kids yesterday,
Oh
and let me tell
wow.
you, my kids are little rippers, man.
Oh yeah. Did you
They
now?
tore it up.
Now, I know that you introduced skateboarding to the Beck future Olympians, I like to call them,
Yes, yes,
and you got them out there shredding some gnar
yeah,
on the snowboarding and stuff like that as well, right? Like
yep,
shredding
yep,
powder, dude. And then
yeah, fresh pow.
so how much like those two different totes extreme sports is this like? Is it? I mean,
Yeah, it's
had
nothing
they
like
been
it.
on a
So, I
simulator?
mean,
Had they done anything like this?
nope. The closest that it comes to would be like skating a bowl and
Okay.
skateboarding like a pool or a bowl or
Yeah.
something. And
Yeah, I know.
and my
I
kids
appreciate the distinction after the last episode, Jeff.
after the last episode.
It's not the bowl you're thinking of. That's I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
oh, how'd they
yeah.
get in there?
It's so
Whoa.
gnarly. It's funny too, because you want to say, all right, well, we're a big board sport family, so it should. But frankly, it did come pretty naturally for them.
Okay.
Oh, and the old guy here, he got up on the board on the first try, man.
Oh,
He
so
he
wait,
ripped his first wave in the first try.
this your first time? Your first
Surfing.
time surfing? Period.
Yep.
Or you? Okay, I
Yep.
thought you were saying your first time surfing with your kids, but you
No,
went
first
first
time
time
for all of
surfing.
us.
All of us for the first time. Holy
Yeah,
shit! I
man.
had no idea. Well,
Yep.
congratulations. Holy shit! I didn't
Thanks,
know
man.
that.
It was rad. It was really rad. We had some great instructors, and really, like, the instruction was like, here's what to do if you get stuck in a riptide. Um,
Damn.
Here's how to jump up on your board, and then it's like, let's go to the ocean, because the quickest way to learn, as
Yeah.
we all know, especially from jujitsu, is we can talk all day about what this, that, and the other thing, but it's nothing beats getting on the mat and
Yeah.
rolling, and so too is it true that nothing beats getting in the ocean and
Do you see any
getting
sharks?
getting a wave. No, but we had a 2 hour lesson. We're gonna do way more surfing this week. My littlest one, my daughter, who is turning 9 while we're on vacation.
Nice.
I mean, she all she wants to do is surf now. That's it. She just wants to surf.
Oh,
She doesn't
great.
care about anything else that we're doing for the vacation. Let's get back. So we're definitely got to get back out into the water. But about halfway through, maybe three-quarters of the way through our lesson, my instructor, whose name was Chris, was like, hey man, let's move a little bit closer to shore, because he saw something out there, and he saw it before anybody else. And then lifeguards started blowing whistles because they thought there was a shark in the water, and it wasn't. It was a dolphin.
Oh.
And it was awesome because that dolphin, I kid you not, it was right behind where we were at, and right behind me. And it was obviously getting food. In the meanwhile, like there's pelicans diving and grabbing fish and so forth. But that dolphin was seriously like 20 feet from me.
That's awesome. You got your daughter hooked on surfing, and then and after a week, you're gonna fly back to Pennsylvania. Landlocked
so
Pennsylvania.
Let me ask you this, Pat. Have you ever had vacation depression, like where you go on a vacation that you really enjoyed, and then you come home and you're like, God, I just wish I was still on vacation?
It's really funny because it hasn't really happened since we moved to Pennsylvania. I really enjoyed living in Pennsylvania. But
okay, yeah.
I've had those perfect vacations, not like surfing with dolphins or anything like that. But I've had those things where like this was just a damn nice fucking vacation. This was beautiful, out in nature, like stuff like that. Usually that stuff. When I get to turn my fucking phone off and I don't have to look at my computer screen for a while, you know.
You don't have to podcast while you're on vacation.
hey, you offered. But yeah, exactly.
I mean, I had it pretty good when we left Jackson Hole 2 years ago, because it was an experience that like really snowboarding and fresh powder. It was the most amazing conditions. It was a glorious vacation. I did have some struggles. Thankfully, I had a couple of days before we actually got back.
Yeah.
To like reacclimate, but this one, I think my youngest is going to have, the blues when she returns, because as you say, we're going to go back to Pennsylvania and there ain't no waves in PA, man. Nope. So in the meanwhile, my youngest son is at space camp right now. So he's at the actual, NASA space camp. That's awesome. At the Kennedy Space Center, and he'll be there all week from 8 to 3. So that's pretty exciting. And, otherwise we're just going to be chilling like a villain, man, out here in Cocoa Beach.
So is there any kind of, does he have any kind of FOMO or anything like that where he's like missing, he feels like, oh man, I'm not getting to shred the gnar with the rest of the family? Or is he? Because he had a great time yesterday too, and so I'm gonna try and get him out there again if I can, even if it's like the late afternoon or early evening or something. Get some glow sticks. Go out at night, bro. Go at night, dude.
Yeah, bro. But the reality is that he gets to go to space camp, and nobody else gets to go to space camp.
Right. Yeah. So there's at least equal levels of jealousy of like, oh, you get to go do that.
Exactly.
Because they're both, they're still kids. They're still going to be like, well, I'm kind of tired of doing this every day. Like, I'd like to go look at some meteors or something like that. But,
right.
Or whatever. I don't know exactly what he's learned. I don't know. Does he learn how to become an astronaut in the week, or I don't know exactly.
That's correct. It only takes a week. Little known fact about becoming a NASA astronaut, they make it seem like it's really complicated, but you can just go for a week at camp and then you get your certification, and then you can fly spaceships.
Yeah, but you have to go the whole week. It's like
you can't miss a day. You miss a day, you have to go back through again the whole week again, which is I understand arduous.
You got to start back all over again, and still no surfing.
And no surfing for you. That's right. So it's got its ups and downs, but on the plus side, Maxwell will be qualified to fly in outer space at the end of the week.
Hell yeah, that's awesome. So he'll be flying the plane back, right? He'll be.
Might as well. Take us to Mars first, if we so desires.
Hey, awesome! Like, I think a really cool, maybe, like, I don't know if he would think it's cool or not, but I'm sure he would if he's going to space camp. You should like give a heads up to when you guys are flying back to like the stewardess or something to let the pilot know that he went to space camp. And then just be and have the pilot come out and salute him or some stuff.
Give him
one of those space, like, dude, that guy, that would boom, cherry right on top of like, you've heard of me, and don't let him see you mention it. And then
I know that's a great idea, man.
Santa Claus, this shit. Get him some wings. Oh my god.
Ooh, yeah.
A tour of the cockpit, some shit like that. Like he's qualified now. Like you could joke about it all you want, and just be like, dude, your name is in a database now. You are qualified to be a pilot. You could fly the plane
easily.
Yeah, and then he'll do that thing, dude. That is a story for the rest of his life. That's fucking
I'm going to try
crazy.
really hard to make it happen,
Yeah, hell yeah,
man.
dude.
That's a great idea.
No pressure.
So, no pressure. So anyway, speaking of surfing, I'm going to tell you one thing is for sure is that right out the gate, like, so I hit my first wave and I rode it in and it was awesome. They're like, "Are you sure you never surfed before?" Brr, 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 you know, that kind of stuff. And then the second one, I blew my knee out. You know,
Oh yeah.
I've got no meniscus in my right knee.
God
So for
damn.
everybody's listening, I don't have a meniscus, and so my knee locks out on occasion, and it blew out, and I was like so bummed because I was like, oh great, this is going to give me a hard time all, you know, the entire time. It didn't. I popped it back in, and it didn't give me any trouble for the rest of the time, which was awesome. But it leads us to our conversation for today, which is about injuries, especially injuries on the mat, and you know what happens when you get a when you get an injury and you can't do the things that you once were able to do, or for the time being in when you're healing, you can't do the things that you love to do. And speaking of injuries, we have to give a shout out to our 6 a.m. crew who went and competed this weekend. And again, I have a certain amount of guilt. I feel bad that I wasn't there for them. We had an in-house tournament at Harrisburg Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and Judo. So congrats, first of all, to all the competitors from all the
Yeah.
gyms and the academies that came out. We usually have a really good showing at our in-house tournaments. How many people did we have there, Pat? It was an enormous amount.
Yeah, I don't know the actual final count of exactly who. I just today, because you had checked in with me yesterday. You said, had you heard if I had heard anything about any of the results from the day, and so this morning when I went to 6 a.m. class, I kind of everybody I was rolling with, I was like, hey, did you compete yesterday? So I found out from my research today that at least Joe and Rick we know were competing, and both of them won out all of their apparently their whole
Yeah,
division, whatever they
gold.
were in, gold
Yeah,
all the way. Also, Eric, I
yeah.
heard or saw that was competing, and and now it makes more sense. I saw the picture of him with a medal, like he medaled whatever it was. I don't know if that,
Yeah, Eric did. Yeah, Eric did medal,
but
but yeah, but the word what happened is he got his rib broken,
ugh,
and it was a fluke accident right at the beginning of the match. It was a takedown and a guard pull at the same time, and they, according to what if I understand it correctly, and what happened is his opponent's heel went right into his rib and broke it clean. He got X-rays. He has a clean break on his rib, and what a bummer,
Jesus,
man.
oof,
So, you know, another injury, sustained. So, because here's the thing, kids, I know that jujitsu is labeled as the gentle art. And for everybody that's ever practiced Brazilian jiu-jitsu, I hate to inform them, it's actually a combat sport.
yeah,
And
straight up,
yeah,
you're trying, you're. I mean, when you make contact, you do the things, or you accidentally knee somebody or elbow somebody, you go sorry. But like for the most part,
it
like we all
happens a lot.
know, that's not the combat part of it. It's the other parts where we're like strangling each other, we're choking each other, we're breaking each other's
Trying to snap
arms.
limbs. I think it's fair to say that, from a combat arts perspective, and I'm sorry guys, they're like, now they're like, I'm in this beach house and they're now doing construction. It's a condo. So I mean, now I hear like nothing but hammering. So if that's coming through in the audio, I apologize.
No, I can't
I
really
don't know
hear
what, it's very distracting. There it is.
it.
Okay, got it, man. All right, you're hammering. All right, so anyway, combat sports. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is submission wrestling. So I mean, there's the whole component of actually the submission, which is dangerous. And learning like where your limits are is super important. We can tap to get out of a submission hold that just says that we quit, that we're in too much pain or we're going to go to sleep or something like that. But that stuff happens in every match, every day, all the time. And this is particularly true with competition because, of course, everything is elevated so much more, and injuries happen. But I will say that typically injuries happen more frequently during training than they do during competition, at least in my experience. Some of you may see it otherwise, but this stuff happens, man. And when it does, it creates a lot of blue moments for you.
That's always
So
my biggest fear whenever competing is their level of nerves. Somebody's level
right.
of competition might not be your level of competition. And somebody like me, that's kind of like, all right, well, let's go for it. Like again, the takedown guard pull at the same time, something like that, or like a fluke thing like that. Stuff like that can still happen, and that is where not necessarily from me not tapping, but fluke things like that where like bad
Sure,
position
there
or
was an
something like that is
opportunity.
where
There was an opportunity to tap. It wasn't a situation where you needed to tap.
right.
It was unexpected, and it occurred. Breaking bones. I mean, I've seen quite a few broken bones throughout the years, and some of them have been really bad. Most of them are minor. You got fingers, toes, things like that break pretty easily. But getting some serious injuries like rib injuries or broken legs and stuff, I've seen those things happen as well, and it is not a pleasant experience, my friends.
And yeah.
So the question is then, when you've got like an injury like a broken rib, and I've broken ribs twice, and as a result of jiu-jitsu, it is a long road to recovery, because ribs do not heal easily, and it's very painful. And I noticed that for myself, like the first time that I got a broken rib, I got really depressed, man, because there was no, like, I had no idea how long it was going to take for me to heal, and when I was going to be able to get back on the mat. And I have some some deformities as a result of that broken rib. I got ribs that stick out because because they broke and then healed in a weird.
Oh, I thought those were abs.
Those two.
Oh,
God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, one over here, one up here.
Yeah, one over here. Yeah. So Pat, what's your so far in your jiu-jitsu career, what's the worst injury that you've sustained?
Like I've had broken toes a lot, but at the worst thing that I had was I had some kind of like skin thing. Like I had like, and I do believe it was probably
a skin infection.
Yeah, it was a skin infection, like literally the doctor didn't even tell me. I think it was more like ringworm.
Okay, ringworm's pretty common.
So it was.
Yeah, so we get a variety of other fungal infections and bacterial infections that occur with the skin, because we're grappling on a mat, and it's it's hot and it's sweaty and it's ripe for bacteria. But the worst ones are, of course, MRSA. Staph infections are bad news as well, and of course ringworm's pretty common. I mean, I shouldn't say it's common in the sense that everybody gets it all the time, but if you get ringworm at some point in your grappling career, it's not. There's no marvel there. It's like, okay, it's ringworm. Yeah. Get it treated and stay off the mat. Most gyms are very good about cleanliness,
right.
So those things don't happen often, but they're not uncommon.
So that's why since then I've been very conscious about like. Either wiping down or something after I roll, making sure that's the case, because that kept me off the mat, I think, the longest, as far as like something directly, like even my broken toes, like I felt fine without shoes on, like, or I just tape them up or something like that and continue to roll. Like that's the thing with most injuries is I don't ever know. I think I know now. I trust my body a lot more now, but for the longest time I didn't know. Is this an injury that should I wait? Should I let this heal? Like, obviously a broken rib, if you're going to get x-rays and stuff, most likely you should probably stay off the mat for a while. But yeah,
you have to stay off the mat. Yeah. We also get like, we were talking about broken bones and stuff like that, but more often than not, it's things like torn tendons and ligament pulls and torn meniscus, those types of things happen a lot. And you have to, it brings up the question, kind of like surfacing into our main topic with injury is like a lot of questions for jiu-jitsu practitioners. And I think combat sports in general is, when can I get back to training?
Yeah.
Because I think the mental side of things, that's where your depression comes in, because you're like, damn it, anybody that's done this stuff, guys, know, like, there is universal where it just becomes part of your identity, part of who you are. Training on a regular basis, whether you're somebody that trains twice a week or 5 times a week or more or whatever, it's just part of who you are. And when you take that away from them, it becomes almost overwhelming that you can't get back to doing that thing. And any doctor who's worth their salt, if you go to them and say, I have this injury, when can I go back? They're going to say, when it's healed. Right? Like, they're not going to tell you, oh, you can go back tomorrow and just roll light. They're not going to say that. They're going to say, stay off of it, rest, heal up. And then when you're feeling better, you can go back, come in for a checkup, and we all go, and head back into the mat. Now, with that said, there are definitely injuries that you can manage and continue to roll and practice. But there's an interesting point to this that I don't know if you've experienced this personally, Pat, but of course I have. over the years, which is, you get on the mat with somebody who's injured and they say, hey, I have this injury, so just be careful on this limb or whatever. And it makes the experience of grappling, very strange. It's an apprehensive, because you don't want to hurt your training partner for sure. And if they're suffering from an injury, you don't want to attack that limb, or you don't want to go after that side of their body or whatever. And it becomes this really weird, kind of like, it's uncomfortable for everybody, right? But maybe more uncomfortable for you as the person who's now responsible for that other individual. But I'm going to give everybody some relief.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say this, is that if the person who gets on the mat has an injury and tells you about that injury, it's not your responsibility. It's their responsibility. They're the ones that are signing up and saying, I'm okay to roll. When we clap hands, I say it's good to go. Now, certainly you're not going to be a jerk and go after like the wrapped thumb. You know what I mean? Yeah. But don't sweat it. I know for me personally, if I have to communicate to somebody that I've got like an injury, for instance, on occasion, my leg will lock up because of the bad meniscus, and I just have to stop. I just have to say, hold on, I've got to pop this thing back in and start rolling again. Or not, or say like I can't roll anymore and I have to just go sit off the side of the mat. But more often than not, I can just, crack it back in and away we go. But it's not, and they are always so sympathetic, like I'm so sorry, and it's not your fault. It's an injury that I have. I signed up for that shit, guys. It's not even, I don't want anybody to worry about that. I signed up for it.
Right. And I think that's something that is important to say, is like, you can still, it's not that there's never a point where you're not going to get injured. You can never get injured. But there is parts where like you're going to get injured, I think, less likely, or you're less likely to, because you're more willing. You've been injured in the past. So like, I've hurt my toes, I've hurt my shoulder, I've hurt because I held on to the wrong for too long, or I did this for the wrong way, or I whatever it may be. Like it was like if anything, you learn from it. It sucks because it's like, considering the injuries I've had so far, I feel I consider myself lucky. I've taken things where I've had to take days off. I have had to take time off because of injuries, but not like long term, cast, knock on wood. Geez, you know what I mean? Like, but
not like Muskin, who one of our other students who just tore a bicep tendon and had to get surgery.
Right. Exactly.
It's totally true.
Like I learned from their issues as well, not mistakes. You can't say they're accidents.
They're not mistakes. It happens.
It's just a thing where like you go like, oh yeah, just so like maybe I'm a filthy guard puller, but hey, you know what I mean? Like what's the worst case? That guy's rib's gonna get broken, not mine.
Unless you pull guard incorrectly. Well, yeah, but here's the thing: you pull guard incorrectly, and you slap your back on the mat, and it's the back of your ribs, your floating ribs back there, and smash them.
Not even 2 whole seconds. You couldn't give me 2 whole seconds just to enjoy myself as nope.
As a guard puller, nope, I cannot. I cannot. And this is coming from a guy who pulls guard a lot. You know what I mean? But I also love takedowns, so it's
And your ribs are anyway,
up. That's true. But here's the thing, guys. Like you're going to go through this. You're going to go through this period of time where this injury happens, as Pat says. Like you've got this. You have this moment. Should I train? Should I not train? And really, like I think it's important. We're all a bunch of knuckleheads. I mean, we're really hard-headed people, and I think rest is okay. So if you're apprehensive about it, just take some time off. Jiu-Jitsu is not going anywhere, and everybody that's part of your academy, if it's a good academy, understands, because most of us have been there on more than one occasion. And so like I get messages a lot from students that like had an injury. It could have been a slight injury or it could have been a more serious injury. And they'll message me and say, hey, just so you know, I'm going to be out for this amount, which, by the way, I totally appreciate, but I'm not, it's totally fine. Like not a big deal. Like you don't lose points in my class because you're out because of an injury. Well, you know what I mean? You got to take that time to rest and recover, and rest is good, even if it's not an injury from a physical standpoint, but more like just burnout.
Mental health is a thing that I have to focus on. I feel like more often than not. I think that's why people let you know why they're not going to be there, because they don't want, not that we mock people for not showing up or we, joke around about that, but like, they don't want you to think like, hey, I'm not quitting. not I'm not giving up, but like, you know,
Right.
I my work schedule got changed, or I did something else, like, because we've connected as like, this is the perfect time to train. We all love it, but my arm is fucked up, my head is fucked up, my whatever is fucked up. I just need to take a couple days, or I won't be here tomorrow, or I won't. It is weird. That is strange. I let you know sometimes too, don't I?
Sure.
I think more of a, like, just a social thing. Like, hey, I won't see you tomorrow, but I'll see you Wednesday. Like,
it sounds to me more like accountability, right? Like they feel responsible for having this need to be out and then to let me know, so that, you know, they know they're not just wimping out on me. They're actually, they have something that they're going through, or they need the time or the space. And honestly, do you hear that?
No, I don't hear anything. What are you talking about? Are you talking about the giant mosquito that's hanging out right next to your microphone?
Yeah. Listen to that.
Oh, he's sick. What happened to him?
The fuck, man? Like, I can't. We pick like some random time to podcast, and I'm like, it should be fine. And this is what happens.
Well, by the way, like, okay, like this is, they know that this is a vacation home, right? So like, they have to assume that, like, maybe you're fucking sleeping in. Like, what the fuck? Maybe the family wants to, like, not have.
Not anymore. What the fuck, man? Yeah, this is insane. All right, hopefully it stopped now. So when we get that back in here before it start this nonsense.
Don't rush yourself on
again.
account of them. That's it adds more content. This adds more character to the episode. Vacation, baby, lay back, put your flip flops on, man.
Yeah, relax, enjoy the sounds of the ocean.
Surf the wave, bro. Yeah.
God damn, man. The harder part is actually me trying to concentrate on what I'm saying, listening to this shit. It's like it's like torture. So at any rate, in terms of like telling me that you're going to be out, is that you actually don't owe me anything. And frankly, the truth is, I shouldn't say that. It's not me that you owe. I understand that, like, you have training partners who rely on you to be there, and it's really important for you guys to show up and to try and be consistent with those things, because your partners rely on you and so forth for that. But like, everybody needs a rest, is what I'm saying. Like, whether you're physically injured, whether your life circumstances have changed and like things are overwhelming, like, jiu-jitsu is still going to be there. So don't fret that stuff. And it's better for you to come in with a clear mind and a healthy body and train at your best than it is for you to try and like fit square pegs into round holes, man. If you dig what I'm saying.
Yeah. See, the thing is, though, is you don't show, but you tell. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're there 5 days a week teaching, obviously. And then even when you take vacations, you're still doing fucking extreme sports where you're essentially pulling your leg right out of socket again. So what are you really saying here, Jeff?
I'm saying do as I say, not as I do.
There it is. That's the topic today.
I am the worst example of this, guys, and everybody knows
what the fuck are you talking about, Jeff? You're saying, like, I was on a surfboard and my knee popped out, and I'm like, yeah, whatever.
Just pop it back in and go. And look, guys, I do have like some serious like mental issues. I cannot help it. Everybody's seen me like in some pretty bad conditions, like grappling anyway. But the reality is that I mean this sincerely. You know, do as I say, not as I do. It's really important for you guys to get your health and rest and come back stronger and healthier and ready to fight. Again, the big concern, I think, most of the times is that this stuff is going to go away. Your knowledge is going to go away. Your strength is going to go away. You know, your classmates aren't going to remember who you are anymore. None of that shit's true. None of it's true. All this stuff will be just fine, you know?
Yeah, don't worry. Like, we didn't forget you. Like, the rest of that stuff is still true. You do forget everything you learned about jiu-jitsu, and you do lose I think pretty much all, except for, unless you knew how to do a Von Flute, I think that's the only thing you keep. But that's it, if you learned it. But everything else you learned. Yeah, that's the only thing. It's weird, but that's just because it's just natural.
What do you call that choke?
I call it Von Fluke.
The Von Fluke? Because it's a fluke every time you get it. Yeah. It's so funny. We have to do like a whole episode on like the names of jiu-jitsu submissions and positions, because You know, we were speaking about John Danaher in the last episode, and he's very like militant about having a specific nomenclature for all these things and the origins of their you know, where those moves were coined, and then it just makes things easier for you to remember, so you're not like, you know, swimming for the name of the move. And I often think that I'm not that good at it. I tend to be like, what's this move called again? You just like, if the leg goes here, the arm gets, you know, and I know it, but you know, even things like arm bar, I almost prefer the term arm lock versus arm bar, but I say arm bar all the time. You know, it's just part of like what comes to mind when I'm teaching. But I like the idea, as you were mentioning, you know, if it's a shoulder lock, it doesn't matter what shoulder lock it is necessarily. It's a shoulder lock,
straight up.
But John Danaher would disagree. He would say, no, if it's an omoplata, it's an omoplata. It's still a shoulder lock, but how you get to that shoulder lock is predicated upon the name of the position and then the move. I mean, I totally get it.
Every once in a while, I'll just find something and I'll do it and I'll go, is this a thing? And I'll ask either you or Chris. And then usually you guys are like, yeah, I've seen that before, or yeah, maybe, or whatever. And I go, what is it called? And which I'm finding out is apparently the worst. You're the two worst people to ask.
Correct. Yeah, we're the wrong people to ask.
And then if you don't know the name, then I name it something and then I call it. So like an Americana, right? An Americana is essentially just another shoulder lock, right? So
correct.
But I remember it as the paintbrush. Because I remember
motorcycle paintbrush.
Exactly. The motorcycle paintbrush. Actually, I usually forget the motorcycle part, but I remember the paintbrush part. I think I might just eventually get to that part, but I will go, oh yeah, paintbrush, paint. I go paint like that.
Paint with the hand. That's right. Yep. So getting back to our main topic and sort of wrapping things up, because I mean, I just don't know how much more of this banging and like noise I could take for this episode.
It's just your wife on the other side of the thing going, shut the fuck up. Stop fucking working, Jeff. Stop fucking working.
Myself especially, I've seen a wide variety of injuries. None of them have been life-threatening, but they do happen, and it's like, and it's okay because you're in good company. And I also too, to the point of like thinking that injury, you know, if you get injured, you're more susceptible to injuries later down the road. There is a part of that is true, that is contingent upon the fact that you're still doing combat sports. But I would argue that your health and strength is far superior to people who don't train. Their likelihood of injury, their likelihood of suffering and death from things like heart disease and other complications from having a sedentary lifestyle is far greater than that of you know, tearing a tendon or, you know, hurting your, you know, breaking a bone or a rib or something of that nature. So, I mean, you know, I think, you know, injuries are part of it's all part of the process of combat sports. It's something that you just have to kind of get used to. It's not an anomaly. You're not weak. You don't suck. Yeah. It just, these things happen.
Right. You know? There is that thought, like you're going to have to fight injured on the streets. If this is a self-defense class, if we're learning a self-defense technique, you're not always going to be you know, sometimes you're going to be walking to dinner and, you know, or whatever, and your ankle hurts already or something, whatever it means. But it's the distinction of when am I supposed to, like, but I think it's pretty clear when you haven't been able to treat it with anything else besides, and you have to go to the doctor. You see a bone, obviously. You know, that's probably going to be at least a couple weeks off.
Compound fractures are an important distinction.
So like
if you're
stuff
bleeding,
like that. You'll know the difference. But if you're questioning it, most likely you should probably take just at least that day off if you're questioning it. And also if you're
take
sick,
some time off. Yeah.
If you're this was even pre-pandemic, and I asked this question before. But even still, like, if I feel like I'm coming down with something, don't go to the fucking, like, it's just like, don't go. You're not supposed to go to work in that case either. But, you know, with us, we usually work from home or at a distance from people. So it's usually okay.
Well, look, man, I'll say this. It's a really good point. It's a really good way to wrap this one up, in that one of the major injuries that occurs, and if we call it an injury, is disease. It would be if you decide that you've got a cold, but you're too tough to not roll with a cold, you're an asshole. You've just come in and given everybody else in the gym a cold too. Like, don't do it. You're not that tough. Just stay home. If you get, and honestly, like most grappling gyms, the people in it are good enough about this. This is one of the things that was actually beneficiary to like the pandemic. The protocols that were followed in respect to the pandemic are already part of our daily in the gym. If you've got a cold or the hint of illness, you just stay home.
Right.
And that way you don't spread it to all of your gym mates. You know, nothing shuts a gym down quicker than like seasonal flu and colds. You know what I mean? Just stop. Like, just stay home. I know you want to train, but just get better. And if you think you're sick, stay home and find out if you are ill or not. And then, then come back and train when you're healthy. It keeps everybody healthy, man.
Yeah.
Health and safety is the linchpin to a successful academy and students, right? So Absolutely. There you go, kids. Otherwise, just take care of yourself, man. And do as I say, not as I do.
Yeah.
So this moves on to our next segment, Pat. And, I can tell you what's on my turntable. It's the sound of these fucking guys working construction in the condo.
Working on a coal mine room. What's that song? I'm on a slip down. Isn't that song? What's that song? Isn't it Working on a Coal Mine?
Yeah. Yep, you got it.
It almost sounded like when you started doing that, like you were gonna break into song, like, well, Pat, like Stomp was gonna come in and just start banging trash cans and shit. I just got a groove, baby.
So what's on your turntable, Chief?
It's weird. I've been not revisiting because it's never really not on the turntable necessarily, but a band that I think you may be familiar with was one of, I think actually officially the first band I ever saw live. And it's a band known as Strung Out. I've always heard a deal with like punk music growing up, like that there was like a thing, punks verse metalheads, or punks don't like metalheads, and metalheads don't like punks, and and like all that weird like clicky shit that I was never really. I always thought,
fan
and I think,
of.
like you, I think like you, I was always thinking, like, aren't we supposed to be like the other people from other groups? Like, we're just supposed to be something not. I didn't know that you had to be a thing to.
We're not exclusive.
Right. Like, cause I like Slayer, like I like Metallica, like what you know what I mean? Like, what the fuck, you know? So.
Yeah, for sure.
I always heard that shit talking, and I always loved a band like Strung Out that was like fast as hell, like ripping guitar solos, like metal face melting guitar solos, but also like such beautiful sentiment and like feeling. The specifically, if I may, Exile in Oblivion, the album Exile in Oblivion is later or like mid career now. Actually, it was new when I got it, but
you're right.
Probably like late 2000s, and just a great album. And it's like something that I think a genre that doesn't get talked about a lot, and it's like a punk metal genre, and it's very emotional, but not in a ballady way. And it just fucking rips. It's one of my favorites. So did you actually listen to any Strung Out at all? Like, I don't know if that's
for sure. Yeah, 100%. Yep.
So
I agree with you too, by the way.
Yeah, we have a good cross section. I feel
we're simpatico.
Yeah.
We do. And speaking of cross section, I mean, I'm a big fan of Strung Out, I think, and I agree. I like bands that rip, man. Yeah. I mean, I don't care what style of music it is. If they're like, if you can hear like, fingertips smashing like guitar strings, in the studio when they're like, you're like, it can be like, it could be a ballad from a country band or something like that. But when you hear like their voice like crack or break because they're just like letting it rip, man, there's just nothing better, man.
One of my favorites.
So, and I think metal does that too. Like, you get those cross sections of hardcore and metal that are really, really good. And like in punk rock, I agree to your point earlier. It always should have been, and I think for the most part is, but it gets a little like, it gets a little bit full of itself too, but it should be inclusive, not exclusive. That was the whole idea. That's what attracted me to punk rock in the first place.
Right.
Is that you could be yourself and like whatever you like and still be part of the scene.
So like on I'll finish with this. Strung Out did there was a series. I always loved my favorite version of any band's albums, and this is probably not a popular opinion, I love a live album. I love a live album from
Me
a
too.
band. That's something that I really appreciate with Strung Out, because they're Live in a Dive, which is a series from Fat Records where a bunch of bands.
Oh
did
yeah,
that.
I love Live in a Dive.
Each band, each night, or each band would have a cover song on their Live in a Dive, and they do Misfits, they do this band, they do.
Yep.
They did Howl at the Moon, and that introduced me to that song, Howl at the Moon, and I was like, that song fucking rips. So listen to Strung Out, dude. They fucking rip.
Speaking of Live in a Dive, the band that's on my turntable in my mind here recently is the Swingin' Utters. Are you familiar with the Swingin' Utters?
Yeah. Spike is the lead singer of Me First and the Gimme Gimmes.
Correct. That's right. So we got the Swingin' Utters. They're out of California. Great. I mean, they're all a bunch of old dudes now, but I mean, like, they're still a band. They're still making great records and great music, even though they would argue differently. They think all their stuff is shit. But here's what I love about the Swingin' Utters is that they're a punk rock band, but they have this great fusion of roots music that sort of drives their sound. So I think the best way to describe it is like, if you like, a good song is a good song. You can play it in any style and it's still a good song. And I think they write more like their folk songs. They write like country tunes, only they play them like punk rockers, and the shit just sounds so good. And they do break off into like they have a couple of side projects and so forth that are more roots oriented in terms of the sound. But man, I just love the Swingin' Utters, and I couldn't possibly pick a favorite record, because every time they put out a new record, I'm like, this is my favorite Swingin' Utters record.
Yeah, I will say that,
which is really rare for a band.
Yeah, I appreciate the unique sound that Swingin' Utters brings, and the fact that, like you said, they go even deeper with some of their side projects and stuff.
Yeah.
And by the way, I want
to. And their lyrics are
a correction. It's Bark at the Moon, not Howl at the Moon. That's my bad. Bark at the Moon.
Oh,
I was like, wait. I was like, that doesn't sound right. I don't think it's Howl at the Moon.
I knew which one you were talking about.
Okay, good. Yeah,
so
sorry.
Good to go there. But the Swingin' Utters, again, like they have something for everybody in there. But their lyrics are almost pure poetry, and they're also, all these guys, for the most part, and different members of the bands have done different projects, as you had mentioned. Spike is the lead singer of Me First and the Gimme Gimmes, and you wouldn't have known what kind of tremendous singer he is if he wasn't, playing in side projects like that. But and so it's really cool though that when these guys, they all like work jobs, like being in a band. They've done like the touring and the making of record stuff, but they're still just regular dudes that work jobs and have this band and have had it for so long. It's just something I really admire and respect. And again, if I may, I just have to say that, like, it's very rare to fall in love with a band in the mid 90s. Yeah. As I did, and then follow them your whole like adult life. They're still a band, and every record they make is the best record.
Yeah, that's
pretty incredible, man. So shout out to the Swingin' Utters, man. You listen to that shit and love it, and if you don't, you suck.
Yeah, hell yeah.
That's,
that's a great way to sum that up.
So what do we got next, Pat? We got do we have any questions for Ask a Black Belt?
Well, Jeff, there is a little segment known as Ask a Black Belt, and yes, in fact, we do have some questions. If you'd like to submit an Ask the Black Belt question, you can do it at babymermaidproductions@gmail.com or Instagram. You can do it there. I usually post on the stories. You can say, Pat, what would Jeff do? Or, hey, could you ask Jeff? Because if you ask Jeff ahead of time, he's going to be able to think about it. And I don't like him to be able to do that.
No, it's no fun at all. It's better to be on the spot.
I hide these questions from Jeff. So I have one hidden question here for you from former submittee, Robert Duffield. He says,
Robert,
what do you want to be when you grow up?
Great question, man.
Yeah.
I'm still trying to figure that shit out.
Oh.
I have no idea.
Oh, you have no idea?
Nope. No idea what I want to be when I grow up.
What did you want to be when you were like, do you remember the first thing that you wanted to be?
Yes. Yeah. I wanted to be a fighter pilot.
Really? Like a like Tom Cruise?
Yeah, like Top Gun, Tom Cruise.
Was
Fighter
it because
pilot.
of Tom Cruise?
No,
Oh.
but I have an intimate relationship with the United States Navy. My dad was in the Navy as a corpsman for 6 years back in the day, and my uncle. So shout out to my uncle Gary, who I know doesn't listen to this podcast because it would not be his cup of tea. Had a lifetime of service in the United States Navy. First as a naval aviator, he flew A6 intruders. And then he went on to be, to be a captain. He was the skipper of the USS Guam, which was really, really fucking cool because I got to go on the Guam for a cruise through the bay, which was rad to watch him work. So I wanted to be because I was influenced by these things and I love aviation and I just have a fascination with it. I think that flying is the equivalent to freedom. So I've always wanted to be a pilot. I wanted to be a fighter pilot. And the other thing I wanted to be was an artist, and that's the path that I chose.
Nice.
And I don't have any regrets. I'm grateful for it. I've had a very wonderful professional career in life as an artist, and I'm thrilled. And so I guess if I had to be a grown up and pick what I wanted to do when I grow up, I actually don't know because I haven't grown up yet, not even a little bit.
One last question for Ask a Black Belt, also from Robert. This is a more jiu-jitsu related one. Does this shit actually work on the streets?
Yes, it does work on the streets. It works 100%, and I know because I've had to use it for real in real life.
Have you really on the
I'm telling you that
like at a bar or like in
a bar.
Like, was it with your friends or did you have to like protect your family and be like, I'm going to kill this intruder?
No, it was, I was out with a bunch of friends who were also jiu-jitsu practitioners and a bar fight broke out. And so many people have heard the story because it was actually ridiculous and funny. But this fight broke out and it spilled over into where we were at. And security, we were at a hardcore show and things did not security was not quick enough. And of course, if anyone that's been in a bar fight knows that like once the melee starts, it just spreads like a virus,
Yeah.
And I mean, they just ran into the wrong tables. All I can tell you. I mean, there was 4 of us, I think, and everybody had somebody under control until security got there. But no punches thrown. We didn't have to do that shit. So I mean, jiu-jitsu saved the day, man.
And
it was easy to get people under control.
That's saying something.
No punches. I didn't spill my beer.
Oh, okay. So that's extra point. That's bonus points. But I'm saying no punches thrown at a hardcore show. You get a gold medal for that.
Yeah,
that is gold medal for you.
Thank
you.
Sure.
Because that's all they do. That's how they dance there.
Yeah,
they throw their.
That's how they dance. Is all throwing punches.
Yeah, they throw their.
Hey, can I tell you? I'll tell you another story, Robert Duffield, if you're listening to this podcast, and that is, you may know him. I have an instructor. His name's Greg Anderson, and he's made a living out of being a police officer, working in law enforcement, and trained with Greg quite a bit. He's my professor. And one of the things that he told me a story, and I'll save everybody from the details. He told me a story about one time when we were training. We used to get together a lot on Saturdays and train, do private lessons and so forth. And he came in one day and he said, "You know what I believe in?" And I said, "What's that, Greg?" And he said, "I believe in jiu-jitsu." And I was like, "Yeah, this is what solidified it for me. Like, this is the guy that I need to get my black belt from." But he actually had used it like that week or the day before, or whatever, in a real life situation where he had to grab somebody who was actually shooting at police officers, which was not a good situation at all. He didn't even draw his weapon. Greg took him down. He was wearing a leather jacket. A leather motorcycle jacket. And I know that he used judo and jiu-jitsu, took him down and held him down, and secured him safely without even drawing his weapon, and used jiu-jitsu in that context. A bar fight's one thing, but this one was a life or death situation. And he's been my man ever since. I'm like, you can't have a better testimonial that jiu-jitsu works.
That's who's patrolling the streets. It's in the streets. He's in the streets.
Yeah.
It's jiu-jitsu. He comes in and says, "You know what? I'm a jiu-jitsu guy." Like that's
yeah,
like,
and I
that's the
can't
thing.
say that's the only time he's used it. I'm sure there's been multiple times, and we have multiple people that are law enforcement that train Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and I'm sure they've used it. And they can speak to that more fluidly. But that's just one of the stories that I remember, and I was like, that's it, man. That shit works. So yes, Mr. Duffield, Jiu-Jitsu does work in the streets.
Beautiful. That's a great way to wrap up Ask a Black Belt. And again, if you want to submit questions, Baby Mermaid Productions at gmail.com. You can put in the subject line Ask a Black Belt, or just put your question in there. Just, hey, Pat, here. And if you have multiple questions, you can ask him anything. It doesn't have to be jiu-jitsu related. It could be.
It doesn't have to be jiu-jitsu related.
What's your
I'm
favorite
an expert
type of
in
brownie?
everything.
You know, what do you like? What's your favorite cookie? Where do you like? What's your go-to at Olive Garden? You know, whatever it may be.
It's not to go to Olive Garden.
Oh. Well, hey, now we have a real stumper coming in and Ask a Black Belt. What are you going to eat at Olive Garden? I don't know. What do they got? But do you have anything to plug?
Man, I'll tell you what, guys. If you get a chance, all right, and you're gonna travel and go to Florida and go down here to Cocoa Beach and learn how to fucking surf, because it's awesome.
That sounds like fun.
So
I think.
and then you won't hate Florida.
Yeah. Well, you know. Yeah, you'll enjoy Florida for something that it has nothing to do with.
That's right, and I don't have to live here, so
Go visit Florida, because and that should be. This is the new tourist video. This is what I'm plugging, my tourist pitch for Florida. Come to Florida because you won't have to live here.
And there it is, kids.
Yeah.
That's the end of that episode.